welcome to the Momversation Club, the podcast born out of the idea that every mum needs a tribe. I'm Claire Strong.
And I'm Christina Struckmeyer. We're two moms just like you, navigating the chaotic, challenging, and often isolating world of motherhood.
Now, it's said it takes a village to raise a child, but we want to know, where the F is that village?
It's a question that resonates with so many of us who find ourselves managing careers, raising children, and trying to maintain our own identities, often with a sense of isolation.
Yep, it's a struggle, but we're here to remind you that you're not alone. The Momversation Club is your village, a place where you feel valued, appreciated, and understood.
We believe that by sharing our own experiences, successes, and struggles, we can create a virtual village for all you amazing mamas out there.
So join us every week for an honest, raw, and relatable discussion about all aspects of being a mum, including the things that you just can't talk about to anyone else.
So if you've ever asked yourself where the F is the village, then you've found your tribe. Let's get into it.
Hey, Christina, how have you been?
Hey, Claire, I am doing good. I'm looking at the calendar though, and I'm like,
Yeah.
how is this month going by so fast? How are we at the end of the year pretty much?
I
Like,
know.
what the heck?
We're recording this episode on the 11th of December, and just an FYI, I haven't done any Christmas shopping or anything
Oh,
just yet. Yeah, but I'm not concerned because this is, typical of me. So it's fine. Everything's under control.
You're like, it's fine. We're fine. It's
Better.
okay.
I'm not sweating. Are you? I'm not. I'm good. I've got
No,
this.
no. I've got most of it done, but I'm just more concerned about the day to day. Like, I don't know about you, but some days, especially towards the end of the year, I'm like, if we can just make it till 6 p.m., like
Yeah.
that'll be a great day. Like,
Yeah.
let's just get through the day. I'll focus on the weeks as we get there.
Yeah, I know. I have this thing where it's like mid-afternoon and I feel so tired, and I'm thinking to myself, I just need to get to this time so I can go to bed. But then as the day progresses and it gets to like 8 o'clock, I'm not as tired as I was. So I don't know what happens to me. It's weird. So I intend to have an early night because I'm so tired by 3 o'clock. But then when the evening rolls around, I'm like, oh no, I'm good. I can still carry on. I can still do this and that and, you know, do this bit of work. And then it's 10:30.
I was talking to a mom about that recently, and she was like,
Yeah.
it's the mommy me time phenomenon because
Yes, it
we
is.
finally got our kids to bed. It's our time. And of
Yeah.
course, we don't want to go to bed because it's like we finally got some time to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I think it definitely is a mum thing. And even though I do try and go to bed earlier, it just never happens because I want a bit of time just where I can focus on me and my brain isn't being divided into 100 pieces.
Yeah. Well, maybe I mean the new year, we New Year's resolutions are coming up. Maybe we have some me time as our resolution. Like we get some carved out time for ourselves that isn't at the detriment of our sleep.
Well, I agree, but I've started doing this and I've been posting about it as well on our social media. But at the weekends were just they were too much. I was never getting any time for me, and it doesn't mean that I need to be in a spa all day on Saturday, but just any time at all. So I have done a pretty good job of reclaiming a tiny bit of the weekend just for me, whether it's to go and get a coffee or go out for a walk for half an hour. It's not even a lot of time I'm talking about, but I've done that the last couple of weekends and I'm feeling kind of empowered
Good for
and
you.
like I'm regaining a bit of center ground. So that's good.
That
Um,
is good.
but listen, we were going to talk about today, weren't we, how we feel that this year has gone for us and maybe, the challenges or the positives that we've faced this year. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Well,
Go on,
sure.
you go first. Well, actually,
I was just gonna say,
we've got something similar, but you start.
yeah. Well, it's like we talked about at the start of the episode. Like the
Mhm.
calendar just out of nowhere flipped to December, and I keep
Yeah.
thinking back, like, wasn't it just Easter? Wasn't it just 4th of July? And it had me reflecting about like how this year has gone and like what's transformed, what shifted in my life and the good and the bad and the wins. And it's kind of a blur um
Mm.
in a lot of ways. So my daughter, I have a 15-month-old, and she was born in September of last year. So really, like anybody who's been a mama who is probably listening to this podcast, The first 3 months of a child's life, it's like, we're not alive. We're
Yeah.
just,
You're on
like,
autopilot.
zombieing.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
So, the last half of 2022 was just like this, like, zombie walk, and so really, I started, like, opening my eyes and being like, "Oh, shit, I have a child," like, in
Yeah,
January.
yeah, yeah, I remember that.
And, we'll talk about it on a later episode, but I faced a lot of postpartum depression during that
Mm,
pregnancy. I had depression in it. And then I had depression, after the baby. And at first, because I had had some baby blues with my first daughter, I thought it was just like a little bit of sadness, the end of the year, seasonal depression. Like there's a lot of stuff that can be
yeah,
contributing
yeah.
that last half of the year.
Mhm.
But as I was reflecting about 2023, I thought, I don't remember January through April. Like it was a real
Wow.
blur. And a lot of that was just like a lot of the depression taking over and kind of navigating that. So the first half was kind of a loss. I don't
Mhm.
remember a lot. There's a lot of pictures. So that brings me back, thankfully. My husband takes a lot of pictures of us. Even when I hate it, I'm like, delete
Oh,
that.
yeah. That's really nice. So he makes sure he takes photos with you in it as well, not just of the baby or of the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's really
me.
good.
He's like, I like that moment of you. And so my first half of the year was a lot of just like just stabilizing.
Yeah.
And then as we got to the middle of the year, I tried to kind of get back to my normal. I was like, all right, we solved postpartum depression. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like that's not a thing. Like you just kind of navigate it. But
Yeah.
we got on a better place and I realized I have to get back to normal. And at the time I was working a job where I was self-employed and I was working as someone who helped people with their bodies
Mhm.
in their minds as well, but
Mhm.
like mainly their physical bodies, getting into a better weight loss space and
Yeah.
kind of getting things toned up. And so I was trying to get back to my normal, which is my job is to feel empowered, be inspirational, and then have my body be constantly moving towards better. And as
That's a lot
someone
of
who just
pressure,
had a
Christina.
baby,
That's a lot of pressure because if that's your line of work, you have to be an inspiration and an example. You have to
yeah.
walk the talk, if you like, don't you? You can't just give it lip service. You have to, show people, and obviously because everything's on social media now, you have to show, improvement photos. They're looking at you to see how you're improving, so that then they then can buy into what it is you're selling. I don't mean necessarily literal selling, but
No, no, you're
yeah,
selling the hope, you're selling the
yes,
transformation, you're
yeah,
selling the inspiration. And so yeah, it was a lot of pressure to be
mm,
like first off, your body is your job. So get it together, lady. Second off, be inspirational even though I'm barely hanging on. Like I'm barely just getting myself together, let alone trying to empower other people. So I
mhm,
was having a really difficult time with that. And then as a result, my career was kind of, my numbers, the amount of money I was making was kind of dipping and I was stressing out because I'm like, oh my God, if I don't perform, if I don't have this body that's aspirational, if I don't inspire people, that's my job. Like that
mm,
is my job. And I was finding like a big shift in myself of like, do I even like that? Like, do I like that my job is my body
yeah,
and that I'm underneath such a microscope that I feel
mhm,
like I have to put this other version of myself forward in order to attract people to me when that's not really how I'm feeling right now. I actually want to cry every day, but like online, I'm saying like, be the best you. Like, I'm just like, it's not real. Like, and it got me thinking about everyone else out there that's portraying stuff that isn't really real, you know?
yeah. I mean, that kind of life can be exhausting, Christina. That kind of pressure where you have to be, it's totally tied to your livelihood, and so you have to look and present yourself as a certain image. I mean, it's not dissimilar to my line of work. So, I mean, I used to
Yeah.
model. Well, I used to model as well. Before I ever became a journalist, I was a model. So I've been in that environment where it literally is based on your image. Now I don't do that anymore, and I'm kind of pleased that I don't, because it's a lot of, well, scrutiny on your physical appearance, and um that's a lot of pressure in itself. But even as my role as a journalist, when I'm on air, when I'm anchoring, newscasts, whether it's on TV or radio, or if I'm doing a report, I it doesn't matter how I'm feeling that day, what's going on in my day. I could have an absolute what show going on at home. Everything could be awful with the kids. I could have had an argument with my husband. I could just be feeling terrible that day, but the audience doesn't care. And so I have to put that aside and be this other person to a certain extent on air. And so I totally can appreciate what you're saying, because that
Yeah.
has been my industry for the past 20 years.
Well, you have to turn on, right? So, like,
Yes,
you get on
yes,
set and you're like, I
yes,
gotta turn on no matter
yeah,
what's happening behind the scenes. And
yeah.
I think a lot of women and, people who listen to us, they have
Mhm,
that in their own way. Like, maybe
mhm.
it is when their kids wake up, even if they're having a sad day, they have to turn on and
Yes,
be a happier version of
yes,
themselves. Maybe they're going through something like grief or other things in their life, or they have a
mhm,
career and the kid is like throwing a tantrum on the way to school and they have to like
yeah.
wipe their tears and like get into the office.
Oh, sure.
We all
Or
turn on.
jump on a Zoom call with a load of guys who are just not having to deal with what we're dealing with as mums, and you've got to be professional, because if you're not, that means that you're not going to be able to progress your career. I mean, you could be fired, anything could happen. So you've got to be on your game.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the problem I had with my career at the time, which led me to kind of what I'm going to talk about in a minute, but like
Mhm.
I had to acknowledge that, is that healthy? Because unlike your career where you jump on camera and you turn on, because my career was me and I was my career, there was
Yeah.
no off.
Yes.
And so it was constantly, I was looking at everything in my life like this is an opportunity
Yeah.
to film or record something or present something that's aspirational.
Yeah.
It controlled every decision that I made. It was a part of me, which
Yeah.
really worked for me for many years because it helped push me out of so many other things that were going on in my world, but was
Okay.
no longer serving me now. And I
Yeah.
had to go,
Because,
well, shit.
yeah. Yeah. Good,
Like,
good for
that's
you
not,
for having the wherewithal to know that that wasn't working for you, because when you change and you have to evolve, that can be uncomfortable. Changing can be uncomfortable, and a lot of people stay in a rut. They stay where they are because change is too scary. And so good for
yeah.
you for having the wherewithal to recognize that actually, this is not somewhere that I want to stay.
Yeah, and it was really hard because the way I built my career over the last 5 years was that I was working in network marketing. And anybody who's worked in network marketing knows it's not just you. When you make a decision, there's a lot of people that are impacted by that decision.
Hmm.
And I felt like I was letting people down, letting myself down, letting my clients down. But I had to do what was best for my mental health at the time. And there was a lot of things going on within the company that I worked for that also led to that push. But it was mainly my own self. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I've got to get to a place with my own body and my own mental health where I'm not paying attention to how I'm being perceived and I can really just focus on myself. Um,
Isn't that really hard though, Christina? Because
yeah.
when you are sharing your life with people online, you are opening yourself up. And I get it, because I'm having to move more into that space now, which I'll touch upon in a second. But so how do you cope with that? How do you, you know, not obsess over what it is that you're putting out?
Well, I think for the reason I really love what we're doing now, because I thought about
Mhm.
that. I was like, oh my gosh, because we came up with the idea of the podcast, in the late summer, early
Yeah.
fall, right when I was going through this like indecision. And I
Yes.
went, yeah, do I want to do that? Do I want to keep putting myself out in a public sphere? But unlike the other job, I could be real here. Like I could
Yeah.
share when I'm having a hard time. It could be
Yes.
relatable to other women.
Yeah.
My job wasn't related to my body. I could be in a season of change within it, not at my exact personal physical best. Because that's normal. Like that's what moms are going through. It's something that we can talk about. So I think, I forget the question.
I was yeah, the
But
question was, how do you feel about how do you cope with, putting yourself out there
yeah,
or laying yourself bare because you're still you explain why you wanted to shift away from that, but you put by doing this podcast, you put yourself back in that arena, and so,
yeah.
how are you coping with this?
I'm coping well. I think what helps too is you and I are doing this together,
Yes.
and we can have conversations together of like, when's the right time to share that piece of you? When's the right time to put that out there, and how are you feeling about that? I mean, those aren't conversations I was having within myself and my other job. I was just like, okay, this will help my sales, for lack of a better word. And also, much like any shift with career, there was a financial impact of
Yeah.
like, this was making me a lot of money. And to put it down means that money would go away. It means that I would not be providing the same level of income to my household, but at the exchange of my happiness and my joy and being able to dream again and have passions. So I think that's kind of my 2023. It was a lot of like, oh shit, this isn't working. Like I've spent so much time trying to get back to my normal, and I realized my normal has evolved so much.
Yeah.
And to pretend that I am the person I was before I had my second child and before I got settled into this new life, it's kind of silly cuz we change so much as mothers as we go through this life, and what worked 5 years ago might not work now. What worked 10 minutes ago might not work
Oh,
now.
yeah.
And
Never
so
mind
you have
years,
to
we're
like
talking
check
minutes
in with
here.
yourself.
Well, you've just hit the nail on the head for me, Christina, because I think, we look back with, through rose tinted spectacles on certain times of our life. And, oh, if we could just get back to there, that was a good place. That was a good time. I liked the way I looked. I loved the age of the kids. I loved this about it. I loved that about it. And I
Yeah.
think part of our key to mental and emotional happiness and stability is to be okay with moving on. So that was a different season, and this is a new season. And it's not to say that you're any less of a mother, a woman, whatever, but you're in a different period of your life. So it's not fair. It's a very cool thing for you to compare you today to you 5 years ago, because it's things have changed, and so I
Yeah.
think you've really really addressed a very important issue there about being okay with evolving. And for me, reflecting on 2023, it's kind of the same thing, Christina. I've had a lot of shifts this year. So for me, I'd say the biggest shifts have been career-wise, because for the past 20 years, a lot of that I've spent employed as a journalist, so either with the BBC or most latterly with PBS and NPR. And when my contract with PBS came to an end, through no fault of my own, they just didn't have the budget to renew it. I was left scrambling, and my industry's changed so much that I thought to myself, I need to go out on my own now and I need to diversify. And so that's been a big shift, because I am working really really hard. I mean, we have this, which is fantastic. I've also got some other businesses that I'm starting, because I'm trying to approach everything with a business mindset. But that in itself, I've never been in business, Christina. I'm a journalist. Someone else deals
Yeah.
with the financials. I just need to come up with the stories. And so now I'm having to, approach everything from a business mindset, which I that's one element of all of this that I'm actually really enjoying, Christina. I'm growing because it's never been something I've had to do before or learn about. And I'm learning as I go. So it's very much on the job training. But
Yeah.
that's actually probably one of the positives about all of this situation. But then the flip side of that is, the income that's unsteady right now. So then that puts a financial strain on things at home, because I don't expect my husband to have to pay for everything. But right now, the onus is on him to carry more of the financial burden, which I'm not happy with. He's not either. And so, there are some challenges along the way.
Yeah, I mean,
Working a lot later at night as well, Christina, that's another one. Sorry to interrupt. I don't mind this.
no, no, it's yours.
Quite
It's your story.
often,
I just
it's very late and I'm putting the girls to bed or whatever, saying goodnight to them, but then I'm working again because I need to get on top of something that I'm maybe a meeting about in the morning, and so it's been a huge shift.
Well, I remember that season of my life when I was going into business for myself, and it was
Yeah,
a lot of late nights and saying no to friends and like
yeah,
doing things for work. But you're also in a space of like betting on yourself.
yeah,
And I mean, you've done that in your life before. Like you've bet
yeah,
on yourself when were single mom with the girls. And,
yeah.
there's been a lot of times in your life, I'm sure, where you've had like similar sentiments.
Yeah, and what you've just said, betting on yourself. Something that's always carried me through really tough times when I potentially haven't had a lot of positive influences around me, or at least people telling me that I'm doing well, is that I've had to be that voice to myself. I've had to say, I believe if anyone can do this, you can do this. I know you can do it. You know you can do it. And so that inner voice has really been essential to my
Yeah.
I'll call it success because I'm still here and I'm still growing. But when I've got through really rough times, I would say that that inner voice, that inner support has got me through those times more than any other encouragement from any other source, honestly.
I think that that's amazing, Claire. And if we could all just have that voice be a little bit louder, I think we get a lot more peace in our lives. But that being said, that you mentioned a little bit about like the financial piece, and I know being a single mom, I don't know if this was your experience as you went through this shift, because I'm also
Yeah.
going through a similar thing. Does it do something to you a little bit to like lessen that as far as like your identity goes? Because for me, as I was putting down being the main breadwinner in our family, because I was not like the main when I married Alex, we were equal,
Hmm.
but now I'm not equal. And like
Mm.
that
Mm.
does something to me as a
Mm.
woman who has been on her own for the most part for a
Hmm.
large portion of my life.
Yeah. So when you say that does something to you, in what way does it?
For me, it feels well, at first it felt unsafe, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I had grown
Yeah.
up in a life where um my family dynamic has been always have your own money, always have your own stuff, because
Yeah.
you never want to rely on someone who may disappoint you.
Yes.
And so at first it was very unsafe feeling to be like that.
Yeah.
But then I realized that like he's betting on me too, because
Yes.
by letting me do this and believing in me and allowing me to grow in this space and not be going back to like a 9 to 5 job, or continuing doing what I was doing that was making good money, but wasn't bringing me happiness. He's saying, I you bet on you, but also I'm putting some money down on you too, because I believe in you.
Yeah, which is great. But that does really add the pressure on because you don't want to let
It
that person
does.
down. It does because, they are saying, and my husband's, taken a similar approach to me that he does believe in me, believes I'm very capable of all these things that I'm doing right now. But you don't want to let that person down. And if things aren't happening at the pace that you would like, or maybe they would like, then that does create some friction.
Yeah, and probably some anxiety and things
Yeah,
like that, just like
definitely.
because you see a vision of what you'd like to do, and he
Yeah.
sees it too, and it's like, oh man, the timeline. Let's
I
get that
know. I
going.
know, it's like,
But
"This is great," he'll say, "It's great, Claire, I'm really excited for you. So, when is the money coming in then?" It's like, "So when is it you when," and it's like, well, that's the
that's the
Oh,
thing.
about that. I'm working
About
really
that.
hard about that. I am
So,
hustling, but yeah.
but and on the other side of this, I imagine you're spending more time at home too, right? Because you're
Yes,
working for
yes.
yourself. And so are you around with the girls more? Have you been this
Yeah,
past year
I've got to
being
say,
there?
I mean, having gone from one extreme to the other, where I'm out in a newsroom, and depending on the day and depending what stories are breaking, I could be there 9 hours, I could be there 10 hours, I could be there much longer. Um, I think that this works better for me and for my family because I need to be around for the girls. My girls are a
Yeah.
bit older than yours, but their emotional needs are still very high. Um, And so, and with me not having any family here and any support really, I am it. If anything, if something's going down, it's me that gets the call. It's me that needs to sort it out. So I do think working for myself and predominantly being based at home
Yeah.
has been a good thing for the family. I'm kind of honestly now thinking, Christina, how I would make things work if I was out of the house consistently on a 10-hour basis. I don't know that I could make it work. I don't know how I used to do it honestly now.
It's funny how we do things like that where it's like, "Oh my gosh, in that season, I can remember doing this, this, and this," and
Yeah.
now the thought of that makes me wanna go lay down for a little bit.
Yeah, I know. It's like, my God, how did I ever do that? That was insane. And I don't see how I could include that structure, that schedule in my life anymore. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, so I think 2023 for both of us has been about shifting, particularly career wise, because we've both taken on new ventures, including this. So yeah, so I think 2023 was a shifting year. I think 2024, I would like to be the year where I'm building on all of this hard work and starting to see some rewards, particularly financial ones. I don't know about you. What are you hoping from
yeah.
2024?
Oh, I love the vision casting, I love it.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have
I
a,
know it's a good thing.
I think for me, the obviously I would love like this podcast. I love it so much. It's
Yeah,
my
I do
it's
too.
our passion.
It
Like
is. It
I
is. We feel good about doing it, Christina, as well.
I love it so much. I
Yeah.
really do. And I love the feedback from our listeners. I
Yeah.
love the
Thank
social media of it all. Like it's
you.
just so good. So I would love to see this grow. But for me, on a personal level, outside of just like mom life, I would love to get to a place of inner peace with like my body image stuff because
Yeah.
for so long, I lived in a body that was uncomfortable always. Like when I was before I got into my health in a big way in 2018, I was always a heavy set woman and I always was tired and I always had aches in my joints. And I just thought that was normal.
Mm,
Then I got really into health and fitness
mm,
and I shrunk down to a very, very, very small size. And it was hard
mm,
to maintain that.
mm,
It was also hard to live in that life of like constantly being on the focus being on my body.
mhm,
Um, and I am looking forward to 2024 being a place where I can gradually grow into loving whatever stage I'm in.
mm.
Um, I love my body now and I'm learning to love it. I'm like,
Good.
this isn't the smallest I've been by far,
Mm.
but also, like I'm in a season where I'm having babies and I'm
Yeah.
raising little tiny babies and my body has gone through so much over this last year and it's just like can we just love ourselves now? Dress cute now, dress cute later, dress cute whatever size you're in, and feel
Yes.
okay about it shifting and changing because it's not
Yes.
meant to stay the same. Like,
No, it isn't.
eventually, we're going to be old biddies with our
Yeah.
boobs down to our knees, and
Yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
just our lives.
It is. And I think just accepting that, and it's not to say that you can't be the best version of yourself at that time,
Yeah,
but in the same breath, like, stop holding ourselves to these unrealistic standards. The standards, like you said, of
yeah.
years gone by where we were this whatever we thought we were at the time. It's not, today's not then.
Yeah. And I feel a little like pang of guilt because
Mm.
for 5 years around this time was like my big like this is the big show. Like everyone's going to New Year's resolution
Oh,
and they're going to jump on board to change their bodies and
yeah,
and they're going to feel a certain way about their body in order to change and I just as I move forward, I want to undo some of that harm and just living authentically at every stage and being okay with it and showcasing that to other people because you're not going to always look like your smallest version of yourself. You're going to have seasons where that's the case and other seasons we're in the middle and like other seasons where maybe you're fat and jolly and that's okay too.
yeah. I think we really need to throw out the appearance handbook here and the size that we're at. I think let's just all try to you know, eat as well as we can. And by that, I don't mean dieting. I mean just making sure our bodies are nourished as best as we
Yeah.
can on that day. I know it's hard. Like yesterday, It was the Nutcracker, my youngest daughter's Nutcracker, and I was backstage, and so I really didn't have much time to eat. I had a protein bar, a Starbucks, and then I took the girls to McDonald's because it was late and that's what they fancied. And I had like a medium fries. I mean, ridiculous. So yesterday I did not look after my body, not because I need to be eating, under so many calories and salads, but just because
No.
I hadn't put the vitamins into my body that it needed to get through the day. So I acknowledge that today I'm going to do better. But,
Well,
you know, yeah, sorry, go on, Christina.
no, I was just saying,
No.
like, I think about just tying it back to motherhood, right?
Yeah.
When I talk about food and listening to your body and those kinds
Mhm.
of notions to my daughter, I'm very clear that it's not about striving to be a smaller version of yourself.
Yep.
Like when I talk about food
Yep.
with her, it's we need to eat because just like in your book where the butterflies drinking juice for energy, like food gives you energy.
Yeah.
And we need to drink water because our bodies need water for our, bones and our organs and stuff. So I'm telling her this is a tool. Like it's not
Yeah.
about being this version of yourself that's aesthetically pleasing to other people. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you take care of yourself because we're essentially houseplants. We need sunlight and water and food
Yes,
because
we
we need
do.
to live. And so it's
Yeah.
just one of those things where it's like, why am I telling my kid this? And then why is the world and my own inner voice like
Yes.
telling me a different story?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like
Yeah,
watching that
I
because
hear
they're
you.
watching us.
They are, which is why I don't have any scales in the house, never have had. I couldn't tell you
Oh,
what I weigh because
I
I don't
love you for
want
that.
the only time I ever get weighed is when I need to get weighed at the doctor's for like the annual review or whatever. Um, but I purposely have never had scales in the house so that I don't obsess about my weight, and I did not want the girls obsessing over their weight, so we do not have scales in the house. So if someone
I
asked
love
me what I
that.
weigh, I couldn't tell them because I don't weigh myself.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
I
But
love that. Well, so New
yeah.
Year's resolutions, I'm definitely like working on self-love. I would like to get to a place where I can just focus on nourishment, but practical ones, I want to read more this year and I want
Yeah.
to build this podcast.
Oh,
Those are my top 3. It's like
okay,
self-love
so
and healing with my food,
yeah,
reading books,
yeah.
one a month is my goal, and then,
Wow.
yeah, and then growing this podcast to a
Well,
place where other moms have it.
yeah, okay, well, I definitely share that one with you, and about the reading goal, why don't we open this out to our listeners, and we could have like a
Ooh,
let's do that. We can all read together,
ooh,
let's have like a book of the month or something like that. Let's put some thought into it, but I think we should.
I
We could have our
love
own little book
that.
club. Yay! We
Oh
could
my, well, here's the deal though.
yeah, well,
I have a penchant for celebrity memoirs and
yes,
like
I like those too. I like
fluffy
those
books.
too. By the way, do you prefer audio or actual book?
I'm focusing on like actually so what I want to do is because a goal is nothing if you don't have like plans for it, right?
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, normally my husband and I watch Netflix and it takes us like 30 minutes to figure out what we want to watch
yeah,
anyways.
yeah,
I'm like all these platforms and like it takes us forever to find what
yeah,
we want to watch.
yeah.
I'm like instead if we have a show that we want to watch, great. But if not, why don't we read? Because my
Oh.
husband's a big reader. He reads on a Kindle and he reads like lots of books per week.
Oh, you do?
Um,
Wow, that's
so
impressive.
yeah, he used to do the physical ones, but we ran out of room in this house. And so
Mm,
but
mm.
so we're gonna do reading during that after the kids go down time when we're spending time together. And we've
Wow.
tried it a couple times already. I started the new Jada Pinkett Smith book that she
Oh, yeah.
has.
Yeah.
It's called Worthy.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen
Um,
it. I haven't read it, but I've seen it advertised, yeah.
yeah, so I just started that. I'm on chapter 2, guys. But
Is it
like
good
I
so
mean, I'm
far?
on chapter 2, Claire.
Okay, well, how was chapter 1? What about chapter
It's
1?
it's good so far. I was inspired by listening to a podcast that she was talking about the book on.
Okay.
But yeah. So that's the plan is like if you don't put it in your calendar as like a thing, it won't
Yeah.
happen for me.
Yes.
It's gonna
And
go in
I'm
that
I'm the
slot.
same. Yeah, I need to do that. I have all these wonderful ideas because I'm very creative but I need to put them down on paper and then I need to do something with that otherwise they don't materialize. So yeah, I think for me 2024, so I'm with you. I want to build on this wonderful thing that we've got going here and get us out to as many mums across the world as possible. I'd love to see us maybe, networking a bit more, and also just meeting our listeners, and maybe later
Yes.
in the year doing some lives, and just some fun stuff where we're really kind of connecting with you guys at home. So I'd love for that. Um, yeah, I'm with you as well on the just kind of self-love aspect. I would like to be nicer to myself in 2024. Um, so I'd say those for me are my top two. So the podcast and my other projects that I have as well. I would just like to see them flourish because I believe in them and my heart is in them. And for me, I would like to. I would just like to get I feel like some days I'm a little too anxious. I'm not on an even keel as I'd like to be some days, and I need to work on that. Like I put a lot of effort into making sure my girls are doing better emotionally and mentally, but then I don't think to put that same work into me. So I would like to
Yeah.
be a little calmer. I would like to react to situations a little better. I still have a tendency, especially with the girls, to just, lose my what sometimes. And I know that's not the right thing to do. So I would like to work on me just to be
Yeah.
a better, calmer version of me that makes me happy. I'm not doing this to please anyone else particularly, although I do think that this would translate into me parenting certain situations better.
Well, and
Um,
also with your hubby, like I'm sure that a calmer, more patient, chill version of yourself would be appealing to him as well.
yeah, I think so too. I think yeah, I mean we'll definitely touch upon this in a different
Yes,
episode,
yes.
but that's all that is a different episode. Our
It
relationships with
is.
our
It is.
husbands and all of that. I'm not going to go there right now because we've already talked about doing something on this. But yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I would like my relationships, how the energy, not necessarily the energy, but my tools, my coping mechanisms need to be improved upon in 2024. So that's a goal I'm
Yeah.
setting for myself.
Well, I mean, let's hear from you guys, right? So we've got
Yeah.
this year coming to an end. We'd love to
Hmm.
hear from you guys. What are the awakenings or the shifts that have happened in your world? What are the big, like maybe top three things that have happened? And
Yeah.
then maybe what's on the docket for 2024? Like, what are the hopes? What are the things? Whether that be related to motherhood or not. Like, everything kind of is really like we talked about with you. Like, as you get calmer and more patient, everybody benefits when
Yeah.
people take care of themselves as a mama, like it takes care of everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. So please just, send us a message, leave something in the comments because yeah, I mean and we're not talking about, things that are going to put immense pressure on yourselves. Don't worry about that. We're talking
No.
about, things where we can be kinder to ourselves in 2024 and just be more at peace.
Yeah, I have a friend right now who's going through a hard time, and something we're working on together and I'm encouraging her to do is, why don't you date yourself a little bit? Like, why don't
Oh, I
you
like
say nice
that.
things to yourself,
Yes.
take yourself out on a movie by yourself,
Right.
no kids,
Yeah,
you
I love
know?
it.
Because we deserve it. Like, we deserve to treat ourselves like you were talking about earlier with your kids and my
Mm,
kids. The way that we have such care and gentleness and
yeah,
just intentionality with our children,
yeah,
and we just like do not bring that energy or that vibe to
yeah,
ourselves. Let's do more of that this year. Like,
yeah.
let's, as you're a mom listening, like, let's think about ways where you're being very intentional with kids that you can just go ahead and bring over to yourself.
I love it. I love it. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the Momversation Club.
And if you've enjoyed today's show, which we hope you have, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review. Your support helps us reach even more moms and build a strong village.
And remember, we're here for you. And together, I promise, we'll figure out where the F that village is at.
See you next time.
Bye.